Welcome to the Everyday is Saturday podcast, the #1 motivation show on the planet.
No more Mondays for you. It's time to make every day Saturday. Boom!
This is the podcast where we help you to accept who you are, not where you are.
On the roller coaster of life, you know we only sit in the front seat, champion. So make sure you are fastened and tight. Let's go!
Tired of feeling run down all the time during the week? We can help you make every day feel like it's a Saturday.
Let's go. Pack your bags. It's time to leave Averageville.
Introducing the man who thinks abnormal stands for above normal.
When you're on fire, people will travel from miles around to watch you burn, baby. We are fired up.
The host of the Everyday is Saturday show, Sam Crowley.
Hello, champion, and welcome back to the Everyday is Saturday podcast. You know, I was thinking about the power of small gatherings. And the reason I was thinking about this is because there's so much emphasis placed on build an audience, build a large audience, large following, all these followers and likes and things of that on social media. But no, you know, there's a lot of power in a small gathering. And I was thinking about an event that I spoke at. God, it was probably 10 years. Well, it was 10 years ago because I met my dad for the second time the day of that event. The event that I was speaking at was in Virginia. My dad lived in Annapolis, Maryland at the time. And a year before that, I'd met him for the first time. Like, really, I mean, I have some memory of him when I was 3 or 4 or whatever. He left my mom when I was 3 months old. But really, like, sat down with him at a coffee shop. That was 2012. So when I got invited to speak at this event in Virginia, I'm like, oh, well, I can see my dad again. Because he doesn't have much time left. And I wasn't wrong because he died later that year. So anyway, I met my dad, gave him a copy of my book, very first book I ever wrote called No More Mondays, The Journey to Making Every Day a Saturday. And, actually, I think I misquoted my own book, No More Work Days, The Journey to Make It Every Day a Saturday. Anyway, gave him a copy of the book, got a nice selfie of him holding the book. I think he was kind of proud. But then I went on to speak at this event. And like most events, when you're a speaker, there's going to be hundreds of people there. Hundreds of people there. Well, I'm not exaggerating when I say that I think there may have been 10, 15 people at the most in the room. I know, it's a big difference, right? But I figured, I got a chance to see my dad, hang out with him. So whatever happens at this event, I'll just serve with no expectation to the outcome. Pretty much how I do everything. No expectation, no attachment at all to the outcome. So I was speaking, it's just the energy in the room when I got up to speak was pretty low, man, not going to lie. I mean, it felt like I was towards the end of the day, so it was mid-afternoon, maybe 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and you could tell they had been pitched by other speakers before, and they're just kind of like a beaten down audience. So I tried to get the energy level up, and to make a long story short, there was one gentleman in the audience who was ready and passionate about launching his podcast and really gaining clarity on his message. And all it takes is one person, you know? And look, I had been doing the speaking thing. So this was 2013. This was a good 7 years into what I would consider the time I gave my very first speech. So, I was 7 years into this thing and speaking to a room of 10 people. I mean, that's a shot to the ego, wouldn't you say? But anyway, there was one person in the room and he bought the course I was selling. So I had one sale. And I think it was like $1,000, but he came on board shortly thereafter for a higher level program. I think it was like $5,000 at the time, maybe $7,000 at the time. And so that was a good day, spoke for an hour, sold 1,000, but upsold them within 30 days to $6,000 or $7,000 after that. Had a great relationship with the guy, actually became pretty good friends on social media, checked in with each other throughout the course of the remaining years, still do. And that's the power of a small event. So if you're somebody out there who wants to, maybe you want to launch a speaking career, or maybe, you've bought into this, you need a big global audience of tens and thousands, hundreds of thousands, eventually millions of people following you. Yeah, that's probably not going to happen for most people. And I'm not the dream stealer. Like I'm the motivational guy, but I'm also a realist. If you're just getting started, you can have a tremendous impact with a very small audience. It only takes one person to resonate with your message. And if you have an opportunity to serve them at the end of your presentation, meaning any kind of a coaching package, a training, course, anything like that, they become a client. And there's also something about smaller audiences where there's like this sense of intimacy in the room. You pretty much have to focus on the speaker if there's only 8 people in the room, 10 people in the room. So all the eyes have to be on the speaker. You kind of can't doze off and fall asleep. I mean, I guess you could, but that would be weird. There's a very small room of people and you're snoring. That usually doesn't happen. It usually happens in a much larger group of people. You can hide in a group of 500, 1,000 people and snore away, But if you're somebody looking to build a platform, starting small, I mean, you're pretty much going to have to start small. You're not going to be invited to speak to a room of 1,000 people right out of the gate. That's just not going to happen. Having your own events locally with 5, 10, 20 people in the room, super powerful. Trained a lot of speaking clients and coaching clients on how to throw their own events with 5, 10, 15 people in the room, pull 5 to 10 grand out of the room. And when they see it, now they believe it. And there's so much power in that. I just wanted to share that lesson because we get sold every day on social media about being an influencer and being popular and look, I'm guilty of it as somebody who has an audience of millions of listeners out there with a podcast of launching your $1 million message. But I never promise you're going to have an audience of millions of people, especially out of the gate. What I do promise is that you will gain clarity on this $1 million message, have a platform, your own platform like podcasting, building your own audience. And there's just so much power to that. And it's that intimacy thing as well. When you launch a podcast, people feel like they know you. I mean, they show up on Zoom calls when I talk to people. They already know about my kids and my family. I share a lot of information out there about where I live and, my daughters and my wife and my border collies and living in the Midwest and all that good stuff. And I do that to build a connection with the audience. Let them know, hey, I'm just like you. I'm just a guy out there figuring it out, sharing a message. It ain't perfect. Wasn't meant to be perfect. Never going to be perfect. But it's perfect for the audience. And it's good for me. Fills my cup, fills my soul to be able to get a message out, helps them out a little bit. They harvest the best, they throw away the rest. And I think that's really takes a lot of the stress off when you can be that individual without that pressure. I got to build this huge global audience. That's reserved for the 1% of the 1% of the, and be careful what you wish for as well. Do you really want all that pressure? Do you really want all those eyeballs on you? Or would you just like to share a message, teach a lesson, tell some stories, build an audience of people who actually want to hear them? And that's good enough, right? Not to say you can't strive for more, but your audience has got to build organically from that. It just will. So it will grow, and it will grow big. There's no doubt about it. It has to. If you stay in the game long enough, your audience will grow organically to a very large number. But don't be dissuaded or, down about, well, I'm not as big as so-and-so. It doesn't need to be that way. I think back to that event in Virginia and what my thought was going in. When I arrived at that event, I'm like, oh, my God, there's nobody here. It's like me and 8 people. And when I left the event, I was like, that was a good time. I hung out afterwards, got a chance, obviously, to talk to everybody in the room because there wasn't that many people, answered a lot of questions, and felt like I did what I was supposed to do, serve the people. And when I left that event, I remember driving back to my hotel thinking, yeah, that was a good day. That was actually a really cool time. It doesn't matter how many people were in the room. And I can tell you stories. When I first got started, I was driving 2 hours from my home to speak to a network marketing get together at somebody's house, like 5 people, 10 people there, just to practice. They came on board as clients, you know what I mean? So never prejudge the size of your audience because it's not really the quantity, the amount of people there. It's the quality of the message, how it resonates with that person. And I'm telling you, man, if there's one person in that room who's ready to go and they vibe with your message, that's all you need. That's all you need. And if you're ready to launch your own $1 million message, book a call on my calendar. Go to launchmymovement.com. Let's have a conversation about you and your dream. All right, let's go. Let's go. Have the best day ever. And that's a wrap. Another Everyday Saturday podcast in the books. Thanks so much for listening. Would you do your boy a favor? Would you get on iTunes or wherever you listen to the Everyday Saturday podcast and leave a rating for the show? It helps amazing people like you find the show faster. And that's what I'm looking for. Amazing people like you. Hey, I'm always hanging out on the interwebs. You can check me out on Instagram at EverydayIsSaturday. Let me know you're listening to the show. Love hearing from fans of the Everyday Saturday podcast. And one last thing, when you're ready to launch, get on my calendar. Go to launchwithsam.com. You and I are going to work together to set rocket fuel to your dream. Are you ready? Let's do it. I'll see you on the next Every Day is Saturday podcast.